Hey everybody, this is the intro, and in these tutorials we're going to be going over the if and else statement in C++. So to use these statements, we're just going to basically use the if command and the else command. But before I write those, we're going to go over the if command and what it is and what it does. So basically, an if statement runs some sort of test, and that test is written inside of these parameters. So right after we declare our if statement, we have to have a set of parameters. Now inside this parameters is some type of test, and it can either be true or false. So what we can do, or what we do after this, is of course we're going to add a body of code. So inside of this body, actually I'll move this down a little bit just to give it a little room to read. Inside of this body of code, we write what is going to happen if this is true. So only if the if statement inside of this parameter is true will it run whatever we write down here. Now in order for an if statement to even be called, we have to have some variables or some type of test or testing sequence to go on. So what we're going to do is create two float variables. So I'm going to create a float variable of x and of y, and just give them just arbitrary values, and we're going to go back down to our if statement. So in our if statement, we have a test again in these parameters, and it can be true or false. So what we're going to want to test within this program is if x is greater than 23. So we could just say if x is greater than y. So what we're going to do is just say if, and then run the test, x is greater than y, then cout congrats, x is greater than y, and just end that line. And again, this is just for an example. So we're going to end that line, and so if x is greater than y, it will run this code, which we know x is greater than y. When we're using user input and the user is entering these values, of course, it would be something that the user, or not the user, but the programmer didn't enter, so these values would be different depending on what the user inputted. But for now, we've declared the values up here uniformly, so each variable has a value. So if x is greater than y, and we know it is, it's going to run this test. Else is used right after our if statement. So else means if x isn't greater than y, then we're going to run this set of code. And again, the else statement needs its own body of code. So just a quick hint, we can, if we highlight these brackets, it'll show us where if statement body starts, where else statement body starts and ends. It shows you the start and end of each of the command or any type of object body that you create. So even for the main function, this is the start of the main function, the end of the main function. Just something to know, just because when you have a whole bunch of these, it can get sort of confusing. So in our else statement, so if x isn't greater than y, we're just going to say you lose, x is not greater than y, and in that line. So we're going to go ahead and run this code and see what happens. So we should get this first line of code because we have a true value. So we're going to build and run it. And there you go. So congrats, x is greater than y, because x was greater than y when I declared the value. Just another quick thing that we can go over, we could also have the user input some values for x and y. So just delete what the values were for the float x and y. And for this, of course, we're going to need some type of input operator, which is a cin, and then our input operator after that. So we're going to have the user store a variable in x and a variable in y. And before that, we're going to prompt the user to enter two values. Okay, so the user is going to take in or get this piece of information. Actually, I forgot to end that line or even end that command. So the user is going to see enter two values, and it's going to take in them two values. After that, we're going to see the either congrats or the you lose, depending on if the statement that they entered was true, determined by this test, or if it was false, determined by this test. So if it's false, we'll get this. If it's true, we'll get this. So I'm going to click build and run, and here we go. So enter two values. My first value is going to be stored in X, so I'm going to put 67 and 107, and there you go. You lose. X is not greater than Y because we gave a 67 value for X and a 107 value for Y. So our else statement ran instead of our if statement because we got a false statement or a false user input. So that's basically all we're going to do in this tutorial on if statements. Later on we'll go into more depth on what if statements can be used for and different operators that can be used around it. But for now, that's all we're going to go over. So thank you for watching, and please subscribe.